I've been excited and looking forward to attending this event. Let me start with something that will never appear in any route to market report by saying that in Africa, we keep forgetting the difference between the continent and the people. So every time we speak about Africa, we talk about it as a single unit and a single entity. And as I was just talking to a friend here earlier, and he's moved from Nigeria, and I asked him, how is it different? And he said, completely different. It's a completely different market. And that is the unique thing about us that we sometimes keep forgetting. And I'm here to talk about margin of trust, the informal economy, inclusion, and the future of West Africa. And when I was told about this topic, the first thing I asked is, what does this mean? There are too many words, too much English. So I quickly went to Google, which is now default mode for our brain, to find out what is margin of trust. Of relying on interpersonal trust, integrity, and autonomy, rather than heavy bureaucratic rules or legalistic controls. So in other words, margin of trust means no grammar. It means just be real. It means connect with the person as opposed to the documentation behind it. And at this point, maybe I will tell you a story about some real problems and issues that confront us. Some years ago, I visited one of our farming communities. And as you know, businesses try to do corporate social responsibilities. We try to go and say, oh, we're going to help people out, etc. So we spoke a lot of English before going there, and we went after the grammar. And we told them how we are coming to uplift them, how we are going to build schools, how we are going to do this, we repair hospitals, etc. And I think these days we call it CSR. And after all this, as the meeting was about to close, one of the leaders just said, look, do we have a say in this? During rainy seasons, the graves are washed and sometimes it becomes shallow. And so their loved ones are buried there. And also one day they may end up in that same burial ground. And he asked us, they would rather prefer a gutter and a fence than all these other things that we're offering to give them. And so since then, I stopped prescribing before diagnosis, and we moved straight to the diagnosis before making a prescription. And let me maybe put it in another word, like now we are in this World Cup environment. So imagine you're playing football, and then you fell down and hit your head on the floor, and blood starts to flow. And then your friends rush you to the hospital. And the doctor walks in, seeing all your bloody face, and he says, please remove your trouser. That is exactly what we're doing in many instances. And I'm sure you will not trust that doctor to continue his process. Now back to the topic at hand. Long before there were distribution softwares like what got soon, trans-Saharan routes that connected West Africa to North Africa, the Mediterranean, and the Arab world carried gold, salt, spices across thousands of miles. And there were no formal contracts, and there were no institutional guarantees. But there was something far older and more durable, which was trust. The caravans of camels that moved across the Sahara carrying goods and credit arrangements involved multiple parties across multiple nations speaking different languages. And those transactions were not backed by any paperwork. It was a shared belief that the person on the other side of the exchange will honor their word. And the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, verse 1 says, a false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. Quran Surah 11 verse 85, it says, "Give full measure and weight in justice, and do not defraud people of their things, and do not commit abuse on earth, spreading corruption." So these two religions gave us one instruction when it comes to business. And this has been revealed across centuries. It's not a new idea. It's very simple. If you do the right thing, you will get trust. And if you are trusted, you will get market dominance. So honesty, fairness, and the ability to be trusted is the foundation of that formula that we call the margin of trust. Contrary to what we see in some of these major cities like Lagos, where we are today, these practices are still apparent. They still exist and they're still being used. On intra-Africa trade, just look modest when you go to these markets, because you know there's a lot that is happening that is not being captured. Billions move on a daily basis. And as these billions move, the disputes are not settled by contracts. And the transactions are not secured by any guarantees, whether sovereign or personal. They are done through the same mechanisms our ancestors have done before, and which is the word of a trusted person, and the reputation of a known trader, and the social cost of being seen as a dishonest person. So today in 2026, in this room, we have commercial leaders, supply chain professionals, and route to market executives across the FMCG space. And many of us in this room are managing complex business transformations, integration, advanced enterprise technologies in an environment that is constantly evolving and changing. But we must not forget that you can build the most sophisticated distribution system in Africa, and you can build the finest digital shelf tracking and the smartest van sale applications and the most elegant demand forecasting tool. And it will still break if you do not understand the invisible architecture that holds this market together. And this invisible architecture is the margin of trust. Now let us look at Nigeria, for example. According to the documents, it says that the informal sector accounts for nearly 2/3 of our GDP. In Tanzania, it's over 50%. And the United Nations and all these other global organizations say more than 8 in 10 jobs in Africa, that's 80%, sit outside the formal economy across West Africa. So these are the micro retailers, the tabletop vendors, the open market wholesalers, and all the other people we see as we were driving into this hotel today. They are the main arteries of commerce. But in many instances, we treat them as a problem that needs to be solved. We call them informal, we call them off-the-books transaction, but in reality, they are the foundation of where we are today. So we layer Western route to market frameworks on top of them, and we do PowerPoints about them. But we keep forgetting we are not Switzerland or Singapore. We are Shagamu and Suleja, and that is how we should operate. Do follow global trends, but in a very interesting way. They move whenever foreign exchange moves, but they don't get reports from JP Morgan. They move because of the Strait of Hormuz or because there's a war in Sudan. They don't need the UN Defense Council to tell them. For example, when the war in Sudan started, the price of sesame immediately moved in Kano and Jigawa. There was no need for anyone to get a report or to watch Al Jazeera. The market adjusted to reflect global realities. And the same happened when there was a military coup in Niger. The price of rams in northern Nigeria moved completely, impacting the flow of meat to the southern part of the country. And when these shocks hit, and they do often happen, the market continued to move and the trust continues to adjust to reflect those realities. And this market that is moving has been happening for decades and has outlived most of the Fortune 500 companies that go down with market fluctuation and changes. So the question is not how do we replace these people or these market dynamics. It is how do we build with them. And this brings me to strategic inefficiency. So we do not strive to replace human beings with AI. As the world continues to talk about artificial intelligence, we at TGI are still relying on man intelligence, human intelligence, people embedded in the communities to ensure that those trends are fully captured and our market is fully addressed. Imagine this. If you remove 200 jobs from a community, you are not being efficient at all. Your P&L may show that, but you are actually creating a security problem. A community with no stake in your success has no incentive to protect your investment. And the cost of ignoring Nigeria alone is on a trajectory towards 400 million people by 2050. And the rural and peri-urban communities are not a marginal market, they are the market. And we can do what we choose with that. We can choose to use that information either to our advantage or at our peril. Let me share an unwritten framework we use across every sector at TGI Group. For the sake of the guys in suits, let us call it the trust economy model, and it rests on 3 pillars. The first is relational capital. In the open markets of Lagos, Kano, or Accra, your brand name matters, but your area sales manager name matters even more. When inflation halves purchasing power overnight, a distributor does not stock your product because of your nice ads and billboards. They stock it because they trust that your sales rep will not leave them holding dead inventory when things go south. And this relational capital is not soft. It is your working capital in disguise. The second is flow of informal credit. The formal banking sector touches a fraction of daily commercial volumes in our market. And the real credit is supplier to wholesaler, wholesaler to retailer, and an intricate web of obligations built entirely on mutual reliance. For example, at TGI, the outgrower model we use on our farmers follow exactly the same logic. We provide farmers with inputs, fertilizers, seeds, and agrochemicals upfront. We provide them with technical support in the field and payments at harvest, and we trust that everything will work out well at the end. There's no bank, there's no collateral, it's just a mutual trust between us and the community in the field. The third is community embeddedness. If your brand is not woven into the social fabric of the community where you operate, you are a tourist in that market. And as a tourist, you will leave very quickly. And therefore, you must stay with them through the good times and the bad. This is why, again, as we come to go to market, because our group has very different products, a very diverse portfolio of products. We have the protein, which is, we have our poultry farms, we have our fish farms, we have fishing trawlers that do deep sea fishing, but we also have seasoning cubes and vegetable oil. And so because of this diverse portfolio of products, we also operate in diverse markets. Modern trade, informal urban trade, informal rural trade. And these are variations. We have different strategies for each of these baskets, but it all is built on the fundamental commercial relationships between us and the people that buy our products. Our distribution company is called TGI District. Our sales, marketing, and distribution subsidiary, which was established in 2017. But today, this small entity that is just less than 10 years old covers all 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. We have more than 400 active distributors, 9 distribution centers, and 1,700 frontline sales team members. That is just on the consumer product side alone. For our agri-inputs, which is the seed fertilizers and agrochemicals, we have an entirely different network of over 600 distributors, 16 warehouses, and 73 persons that go to do market activation, touching over 1 million farmers across the country. These are two distribution architectures supported by one philosophy. So the question people always ask is, how do you actually win in these different markets? When our seasoning cube, Terra, was launched, it entered a market controlled by brands that have been there for decades. These are names that my grandmother used, and they still use it in many instances. The conventional wisdom was, you cannot disrupt. The trust is too deep. But we did. And we did it on the social media, print media, visual media, man-to-man marketing, everywhere you go. The other day, I went on YouTube trying to follow the Iranian situation, and there was a Terra advert before the bad news came. So that is how we have been operating. By 2026, 9 years, Terra was named Brand of the Year. 76% of the consumer votes. It was voted Best Seasoning Brand at 2025 Consumer Value Awards, a platform where no jury decides, only the public votes. Golden Terra Soy Oil followed the same path, winning the LAIF's Best Campaign of the Year in 2024 and Most Preferred Healthy Cooking Oil at 2025 Consumer Value Awards. Our agrochemicals are the leaders in the market, and our fertilizer is the only brand that can be supplied in the Northeast because we've created a blend that cannot be weaponized. And this philosophy does not only apply to consumer products, it applies to every other area, whether it is chicken, whether it is fish, whether it is our industrial chemicals, and many more. And for those of you who actually know me and have met me, you will know that I'm also always in the field. I spend a lot of time out listening and learning. So at TGI, I always like to tell my colleagues that we speak good English, but our vernacular is better. Here is a summary of what I just said. Different products, different customers, different channels. A few weeks ago, we announced a 50-50 joint venture with Wilma International, which is Asia's leading agribusiness group that combines our Nigerian and Benin Republic food operations into an integrated platform that will address the $12 billion West Africa market. And earlier this year, we announced our partnership with Reliance Consumer Products Limited, the FMCG arm of India's Reliance Industries. We are going to commit significant capital to manufacturing, distribution infrastructure, and human capital development across West Africa. So if you think that you see us, we are in your face all the time, this is just the beginning. There's more to come. So my challenge here to every route to market professional in this room is simple. Stop optimizing for efficiency in environments that demand resilience. Let us not wholly and fully just trust the dashboard without confirming through talking to the people. And let us stop treating the informal economy as a problem to be solved and start treating it as an intelligence to be decoded and within its own parameters and rules of engagement. Today, we have better tools, but the foundation has not changed. West Africa is not a difficult market. It is a different market. And it is this market And in this market, trust is not soft value. Trust is margin. Thank you very much.